ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 683rd edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel Feuerstein. I'll give you an American perspective of our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments. Get your daily reading from me now, just to give everyone brand new information for you now, and here it comes right here. I am now both currently at Beyond the 90, at beyondthe90.substack.com, and now I am full-time with Mr. JJ Pavlik and Bad Dog Sports. So the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show is now officially a member of baddogsports.com. And of course, don't forget, I also write articles over at Beyond the 90 at beyondthe90.substack.com. And of course, still here broadcasting live on YouTube. So come on in, discuss amongst yourselves if you like. You have a question for me, I'll try to answer the best of my abilities. And breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, yes, breaking news has just come up now through from the Philadelphia Inquirer's Jonathan Tannenwald. Tim Ford, a member of Pro Referees at this point in time, is under investigation for wearing LAFC gear and being a fan of them while officiating their games. And this is from Jonathan Tannenwald from X. He says, yes, Pro is looking into the Tim Ford stuff. No, I don't know how an investigation into Instagram posts by his wife, one of which is 7 years old, will end up. And that's all that he has for now going forward. And, you know, look, that's why when you have referees who, you know, look, referees love the game as well. The referees, they've grew up watching this game, supporting this game, and eventually they'll be officiating or officials that are supporters of certain clubs. And when you have to inform the referee organization, whether it be Pro, whether it be the FAs, whether it be U.S. Soccer, whatever it is, you have to inform them that you are a fan of Los Angeles Football Club or Austin FC or New England Revolution or LA Galaxy. And if you are officiating a game that the club that you have supported, that's a no-no. It's just like when you have international referees calling games when their country is not on the pitch performing, whether it's in UEFA, CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, Africa, Asia, Oceania, does not matter. You cannot have a referee who comes from the same country as one of the two other national teams, as you all know those rules. That cannot happen. And if you are a supporter of that club in the league you work as an official, obviously you cannot officiate a match. If you are a LAFC fan, you cannot officiate an LAFC game. You know, in Major League Baseball, there was a pitcher on the Philadelphia Phillies, and I believe it was Randy Wolf. His brother is an umpire for Major League Baseball. So that means basically whenever Randy Wolf was pitching for the Phillies, either in Philadelphia or on the road, his brother could not officiate or be an umpire, whether it's behind the plate or on the bases. He could not officiate or be an umpire during his games at all. Could not. Even as a crew chief or a member of an umpiring crew, he could not be involved with any games involving the Philadelphia Phillies and any other team they played against, either in Philadelphia or on the road. So right there and then, that is a major no-no. And, you know, Tim Ford right now at the moment, it's an investigation. And if he is going to be severely punished for this, if they do find that the allegations are true, Tim Ford's in hot water. But if not, and they're not true, well, then obviously he goes on his merry way. But, this is very, very disturbing. And this is very, very interesting to see what's going on. Also, um, there's been other pictures involved. I could not get those pictures at the moment. If you want to go on social media, head over to Vancouver Insider at Van_Insider. He's got some pictures there. You can also go if you want to check out GA at capital letter GA numbers 264748. And the pictures are right there. So go there and take a look for yourself. But once again, until the facts are clear, real facts, let's not assume right off the bat that this has happened. When the report comes out and when everything is I's dotted, T's crossed, S's est, then we can have an opinion about it. But until then, this is still under investigation. Nothing has come out since this announcement has been made. We'll find out after the investigation is over. So for now, hold back your opinions. Hold back whatever you may think of right now. Yes, it is very, very upsetting. And yes, it is not fair and is not right what Tim Ford may have done or alleged to have done. But right now, and I'll pop that back up for you just in case you missed it. And once again, from Jonathan Tannenwald, the Philadelphia Inquirer, that was seen on X. Yes, Pro is looking into the Tim Ford stuff. No, I don't know how an investigation into Instagram posts by his wife, one of which is 7 years old, will end up. And that's all he had. That's as far as it goes. And once again, once all the facts are out, once everything comes out, then we'll find out what happens. But until then, we just have to wait for the full report to come out, and then we can throw our opinions and we'll see what happens. But until then, hold off, keep it calm, let the investigators do their investigating, and then when we get our answers, we'll find out what the number one issue will be. We'll find out the answers, and everything will come out, hopefully, if it's going by quickly, hopefully quickly. If it's going to take a while, it's probably going to take a while. But until then, you just got to wait and see what happens. But until then, we cannot go off half-cocked and assume everything is absolutely real until the full report comes out. So we'll wait until then. But once again, just to let everyone know that I have now officially moved to Bad Dog Sports, covering New York City soccer for the New York Red Bulls. I want to thank both Anthony Merced. I want to thank Anthony Merced for picking me up after I left SB Nation. I was basically, after I left SB Nation, after my 4 to 5 year tenure with them over at Vox Media, wanted to go on my own. Didn't feel that was the thing for me. I was trying to latch on to another publication because I felt that's where I did my best work, was being a part of a staff, was with Jersey Sports Net at the time. And then Anthony asked me to join, which was at the time Red Bull News Network, and then became AJMSportsFC.com. So became that. And now, after helping out Mr. Pavlik during his time of recovery from his injuries from home, obviously the cat got him. Sabotage. But anyway, I had helped out JJ Pavlik until he was able to get back on his feet, and thank God he's back on his feet now, and it's really great to have him back on. And with that, I've officially made the move to Bad Dog Sports, and I'll just pop that back up as well. And don't forget, I'm also writing on Beyond the 90 over at beyondthe90.substack.com. So for anything and everything soccer, those are your two places to find me, at baddogsports.com and Beyond the 90 Substack.com. Please read my articles about the U.S. Open Cup, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the CONCACAF Nations League, what's been going on in USL, MLS, of course, here and there, and other things going on too. So it's a fun time for myself. And once again, I've enjoyed being on both sites. And once again, thanks to Anthony Merced and of course, I was also there with Gary Redmond. Of course, you can always listen to Gary Redmond's New York Red Bulls Discussion Group podcast on YouTube as well, NYRBDG podcast, and check it out. And of course, you go to the Facebook page for the New York Red Bulls Discussion Group. And if you're a Red Bull supporter, head on over there and we'll have some fun. But once again, as always, this show talks about American soccer, both in the MLS level, all levels of American soccer and our national teams. So that will always be on the forefront, period, no matter what. So that's what this show will always be about the game in this country. And so as we get ready for the show tonight, before we begin, let's go ahead and give you, once again, this first segment sponsor, and that is Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. Let me tell you about this segment sponsor, Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. When I need that extra kick to power through match analysis and late night transfer rumors, there's only one drink that delivers authentic Italian energy, Dino Luzzi. Crafted in Italy with the same passion I bring to this show, because real energy comes from real ingredients, just like real soccer talk comes from real insiders. Dino Luzzi Energy Drink from Italy. Ladies and gentlemen, my first guest tonight, coming from the New England area, of course, the Blazing Musket, covering the New England Revolution and all New England soccer talk. Once again, Sam Minton joining me tonight. Sam, good evening. How are you? It's great to see you again, my friend.
Great to see you as well, Dan. Wish things were going a bit better for the Revs, but hey, you take whatever wins you can get. But I love that sponsor, man. I gotta try out. I'm an energy drink aficionado, so I'll have to try that one out.
Yep. I believe you can purchase it on Amazon. So if it's not in the stores or on the shelves, I think you can go to Amazon for it. So go ahead and check that out there, Sam. Let's talk about the last match first, because that was a much needed victory for the New England Revolution, 2-0 over DC United. And, even though it's not the original 1996 kit that the Revs have worn when they started MLS, I have to admit, I love that design. I do miss the old crayon revolution going diagonally across the chest. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was amazing. I do think the jersey's pretty good, especially when you're going up against some of the other archive kits, like, maybe San Jose or Seattle can be a little bit tough to stand out, but I think they did a decent job with it. So definitely it was great to see that. It was also alumni night, so there was a ton of Revs alumni in the building. Taylor Twellman, Daigo Kobayashi, Gustavo Bo, Brad Knighton, Matt Reese, just a ton of the old names. Even Lexi Lawless was in the building, so it was great to see some of those old Revolution names from the past, and being able to honor those guys while some history was also being made itself out on the pitch. And I think, even though it is DC United, this team desperately needed 3 points, and it was able to get it on that night.
Exactly. Did Steve Ralston return as well?
I don't believe he was in the building. I'm assuming he might have had a prior commitment. I think he's either with San Jose. I believe it's he's out west with one of the California teams. So
okay.
He had a prior commitment. Jay Heaps was unable to make it because Birmingham Legion had a game. Connor Smith wasn't able to make it because RAFC had a game. But some folks were able to come up on Friday to for like a little dinner that they got together. But yeah, unfortunately, not everybody was in attendance. Also, including someone in Charlie Joseph.
Yeah, absolutely. And, nice to see Shalry Joseph coming back to the Revolution for that day, too. Is he now officially back full time with the club, or it was just for the visit?
No, so he wasn't able to make it because he's currently on the coaching staff for San Jose. He's with Bruce, so he's one of those guys who didn't make it. So yeah, he's out there with Bruce and seems to be enjoying himself in California. So can't blame him.
Nope, can't blame him at all. Now let's go to the heart of the situation. Obviously, there's been a lot of strife over in Gillette. Obviously, the Fort has not been happy. Obviously, there's a lot of Revolution supporters that are not happy with how this team has been playing. Obviously, the win against DC was well needed. They had to have it. But even though that's one bit of a reprieve, what's the issues right now? Is it the players? Is it the coaching? Is it something going on altogether? What has been the problems this season by this Revolution side?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit maybe a mix of both. I think probably one of the largest has to be the coaching in the sense that, during the off season, Kurt Anolfo went out, got essentially a whole new roster. So, Caleb Porter was able to get his guys, if you will, and, had a really rough start, had, a little bit of a winning streak, but then all of a sudden really have crashed down to earth and, seem stuck in 11th at the moment in the Eastern Conference. So I think a lot of it probably has to weigh on Caleb Porter's shoulders. Still, you have some players who are underperforming. Leo Campana was able to get a goal against DC United, but largely for the price tag he was acquired for has been a pretty big disappointment. The Revs spent over $2 million in GAM to acquire Campana. Thomas Shakalai has had an iffy year. Again, someone who struggled with injuries. Ignacio Scanago, someone who was on loan, again struggled with injuries, made his first appearance in quite some time against DC United. Peyton Miller's a great player, but he's shown an ability to become injured quite easily. So they've had to deal with a fair share of injuries. But I think right now, especially if you're talking to Revolution fans, the biggest problem is Caleb Porter. And even though that this win is great to get the 3 points, they're pretty strong in their feeling that Caleb Porter needs to go.
What are the feelings about Kurt Anolfo? Obviously, sporting director of the club. It just seems like every time he's in front of the camera, he just doesn't give confidence to Revolution fans at all. And do you feel maybe, is he a little over his head right now? Or do you just feel that it's just bad luck and sometimes these signings are just not going the way you think it should be going for him?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one with Kurt. You talk about maybe him seeming, overconfident or over his head. I remember, he was asked during the Matt Turner press conference for his vision, and, he kind of gave a decent answer, but then went on to say, yeah, sometimes we're going to lose, sometimes we're going to win. And it's like, that's not exactly what you want to be hearing from your GM. So, definitely think that part of it, he was kind of thrust into things when Bruce Arena, resigned. So, maybe he is a bit over his head, but if you look back in his career, hasn't exactly had a ton of success. When I think of the moves he's made, I think if you look at someone like Brian Ceballos, that's looking like a good move. Same with Eli Feingold. But, you look at someone like Campana that's looking to potentially be a bit of a mistake. You look at someone like Mamadou Fofana, has kind of started well, but isn't exactly performing great at the moment. You now currently have 4 goalkeepers on the first team, which is some pretty poor roster management. So I think there's definitely been some hit and misses with Kurt Anolfo. And if you look at the statements put out by both supporters group, it's not just calling out Caleb Porter. They're both calling out Caleb Porter and Kurt Anolfo. So I think there definitely is a bit of animosity, not just towards Caleb Porter, but towards Kurt Anolfo as well.
Let's talk about Matt Turner for a second here. He's back with the Revolution. Obviously, I understand it's a loan deal, but does this move really make any sense? I don't think Ivacic ever played that badly this season. I don't really think he's the problem in with this club. I think he's done a very good job. Okay, they've had some bad results, but that's not all on him. Does that make any sense to bring in Matt Turner and to give him a game or two and let Ivacic start the whole way? Because if you're bringing back a guy like Matt Turner to give him minutes and to help him be a part of the national team as well, Ivacic has to be really, really bad. I just don't see that.
Yeah, definitely would agree in the sense that, Aljaž Ivacic was far from the biggest problem for the New England Revolution. I would say it was probably, being able to score goals and kind of, the strikers up top, and then probably, the center back pairings, communication from the back line. then maybe, it's goalkeeping. But, I definitely think the Revolution would be, quite fine with Aya Zivicic in net for the rest of the season. But he seems to have kind of, been a victim of, this move. And I mean, when you have the ability to bring in Matt Turner, you kind of have to take advantage of that. Obviously fans love the move. You get a player from a time when the Revolution were playing some pretty good soccer. You have him back, someone who really came into his own with New England. But it definitely seems like this is almost a pit stop, if you will. Talking to Turner post game, and just his general sentiment is that he needs to get minutes. He needs to, be a consistent starter to ensure that he can be that number one for the U.S. men's national team. And I think from that standpoint, it makes perfect sense, especially for him personally. But for the New England Revolution, outside of the PR and, having a chance to bring in someone with the talent of Matt Turner, it doesn't necessarily make the most sense, especially because obviously he's probably going to stay for the 2026 season. There's potential for him to be a DP. I believe he's actually currently a DP now. They're hoping that he can become a TAM player next season, but you're committing some serious roster resources to a player like Matt Turner, and it's not necessarily a move that you have to make.
No, I agree. I just think that, and look, I don't want Matt Turner not to have a club. I don't want Matt Turner not to play. I want him to play. I want him to be, whether it's here or it's back in Europe. I know the whole Lyon situation was terrible. They went through the whole situation of being relegated out of League One because of the whole Texter situation, the financial issues that they were having, but they saved themselves. But to alleviate themselves in some way, they had to find a way to take Turner off the books. And so, I mean, what are you going to do? Unfortunately, this is what goes on. And like I said, if he could have gone somewhere else in Europe, that'd been fine. Maybe another MLS club, that's fine. I just cannot see Turner really getting any minutes here for the Revolution, unless all of a sudden they don't trust the guy at Red Bulls 2 and they just throw him in there. I mean, Revolution 2. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Matt Turner is going to be the guy from here on out, and it seems like Aya Zivicic is now just stuck in a really difficult situation. I mean, if I'm the Revolution, I'm trying to offload him as soon as possible, because it's just really difficult to see him, you know, usurping Matt Turner. I think, they have to find a trade. They're kind of in need of some GAM, and some cap relief. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if Aya Zivicic gets traded, because if there's any sort of suitor and you have a starting caliber keeper just on your bench, you have to get rid of him. So hopefully, he's kind of hard done by this move, but hopefully the Revolution do right by Aya Zivicic and finding him a new team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's really amazing, isn't it? And I was a part of the Spaces on X after the Revolution, which they had a 2-0 lead going into the half, and they completely imploded at Sports Illustrated Stadium against the Red Bulls. And from that point on, just everything just was not going their way. It hasn't been going their way, obviously, and I mean, I'm hearing a lot of dejected Revolution supporters. I've even been watching, probably not just yourself, but other reporters that cover the Revolution, how difficult it was to see them. You have a 2-0 lead at half. You're dominating the game, and then it just disappeared in a blink of an eye. I
Yeah.
mean, what's the feeling going on around the press corps right now?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just me, but definitely feel like whenever you think that it can't get worse, it always seems to. Like you said, that performance was really shocking. And, hearing Caleb Porter after the game, it didn't necessarily make you more confident. He talked that, he didn't tell players to ease back, and he was communicating with players to do stuff, and they just didn't do it. Not what you want to hear from your head coach. And, even going against DC United, heading into that match, they're playing a team that's arguably worse than them, wasn't exactly confident. You look at the Montreal game, that's a game that the Revolution should be winning, and they just were unable to secure 3 points. And that seemed like it was going to be the death blow of Caleb Porter. But it seems like he's still going to be here. And at this point, you imagine he'll be here for the rest of the season. And then it becomes what's going to happen once the Revolution most likely miss the playoffs. but it's really difficult because obviously nobody necessarily likes to read about how their team is doing terrible or listen to podcasts that are essentially, your team's doing terrible. So it isn't exactly fun, but you try and find the fun where it is. But it definitely seems like as much as you can take a step forward, you can get a win. It's just really meaningless in that the Reds just seem like they're in purgatory right now, just waiting to officially be eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah, it's really, really tough, obviously. But look, you know as well as I do, this league has always been full of surprises. Just when you think they're dead in the water, all of a sudden they go on a fast run and someone else falters, they'll take over a playoff spot like out of the blue. So that's still on the table. I will never ever doubt anything that goes on in this league. I think you know that as well. Um, you know, what does this mean? Let's just say for the heck of it, and I'm going to give a hypothetical question here, obviously. Obviously, it's too late to fire Porter now because there's like what 2 months remain, 2.5 months left in the season right now, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, do you believe he's done once the regular season is over? Do you think the Crafts are going to say that's it? We're going to move on to a different direction. And at the same time, do you feel Curtin Allfo is going to join him on the chopping block?
Yeah, I think part of the reason you probably may not be fired is because if you're at this point, you're going 2 seasons without making the playoffs in a league where the majority of the teams make the playoffs. You inherited a pretty talented roster. I mean, as much as the Revolution were kind of struggled towards the end of 2023, at one point I believe it was right before Bruce Arena resigned or was suspended. They were like second or something, and they were at the top of the Eastern Conference. So this wasn't a bad team that Caleb Porter and Curtin Offo inherited. So I think looking at how they've performed, if you miss the playoffs 2 seasons in a row, I think you just have to do a complete reset. Personally, I thought that once Bruce Arena resigned, that you should have done a complete reset then, in the sense that there should have been no one hired, that was with the organization. Obviously, Curtin Offo was, so that was interesting. So I really do think that if you miss the playoffs, that you need to kind of have a complete reset. Obviously you would then have to, pay out Caleb Porter if his contract is still going. Same with Anafo. But I do think that they've shown that they're not going to be able to get this team to where they should be. At the minimum, they should be making the playoffs. I think ideally they're being Eastern Conference contenders. If you're not, you're just wasting Carlos Heal's almost seemingly prime years. So definitely think that if things continue as they are, I think you have to get rid of Caleb Porter and Curtin Alpha.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And for the first time I've ever seen Carlos Heel looking frustrated, not just one match, not just 2 times, 3 times, 3 separate matches. I've seen him like blow a gasket and really just letting his teammates have it out on the pitch. And is it just because they weren't working well, or it's because of the whole situation that's been plaguing this side for so long?
Yeah, I think when you see the struggles, it's kind of definitely makes you think, what's going on in the locker room, and, is everyone united? Everything we're hearing from players and coaches is that, yes, they are. They're still fighting for Caleb Porter, and I think the fact that they were able to get the result against DC kind of indicates that. But, it definitely seems like the last 2 years, maybe, towards the end of 2023, Carlos was looking a bit more angry, a bit more lively. There was a moment, I believe, it was against Montreal. You had Thomas Shankalai going at it with some players, having a verbal spat. Kind of these instances do pop up now and then. So as much as, players do say they're united, coaches say they're united, definitely, take them at their word there. But there's definitely lots of frustration just at the Revolution's poor performance, inability to score, inability to get 3 points, struggles at home. So whether it's, about how the season's going or, internal locker room stuff, doesn't matter. They're just really frustrated about how the season's gone so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully, let's see what happens with the rest of the season. If not, I guess, unfortunately, it's 2026 time, so we'll see what happens there. But as always, Sam, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Good luck with the rest of the season, and I will talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks so much, Dan.
All right, thank you. Sam Minton from the Blazing Musket, covering New England Revolution soccer and New England soccer all together. Join me next. Not only is he a colleague of mine at Bad Dog Sports, covering Asian Football Club news, but he also covers FC Cincinnati for Area Sports Net. Join me right now, my good friend Kenta Hagiwara. Kenta, welcome back to the show. Finally talking Cincinnati with you. First of all, how was your trip over the Pacific back in I believe we were in Japan at that time. So how was that?
It was good. Yeah, I have family in Japan. My parents are Japanese, so um, yeah, I go back every year just to see family. I'm an only grandchild, and so I feel like my father would get some very harsh words if I didn't come back to see the grandparents. So no, it's always fun to go back, and yeah, I love the culture there and everything. So.
We can't have your dad be poxed by your grandparents. We can't have that.
Exactly.
Believe me, I know. You go see your grandparents. Okay, mom. Okay, dad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But life is good in Cincinnati. Top two right now. Second place, just about 2 points behind Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference. Look, ever since they got Evander, he's been tremendous. I think was he like scoring a goal like every single match, or at least it feels like it.
It does, doesn't it? I think there's a lot of question coming into the season, obviously with Lucho moving on, going to Dallas, and now he's not even in the league anymore. And trying to replace him with a younger number 10, who, I think a lot of FC Cincinnati fans didn't really watch despite him being in MLS. West Coast matches aren't necessarily the easiest to follow consistently. And so his time in Portland, although it was impressive, I didn't really expect this to be the output that you're getting from the jump from a player, especially when he's playing in a new system around new players that are also playing in a new system. You look at the record signing of Kevin Danke at the time, right, and bringing him in as a striker. So there's a lot of new pieces going around in the attack. So I think there's some concern on how long it would take for kind of those pieces to meld together and to function as a unit. But when you have someone like Evander scoring as many goals and contributing as much as he is by himself, you don't necessarily need all the puzzle pieces to fit perfectly. You just need them to not, interfere with what Evander's doing.
No, I agree with you. And I think, that's the one thing I think I can agree with. I think he might be a quick study, Evander, for what Pat Noonan wants him to do out there. And I mean, look, you still have a potent attack. You still bring up the ball very well. You're always dangerous inside the opposition's area. They're always putting the ball in the back of the net. I mean, it just really looks like Evander has taken it very quickly. Maybe he studies film all the time. Maybe he's a 24/7 film study nut. You never know. But still, he's just been tremendous.
He has, yeah. And I mean, Cincinnati, I think they're pretty league average in terms of goals scored, which, just kind of speaks to just how much Evander's been putting the ball in the back of the net, because pretty much every time when you see FC Cincinnati score, it's followed by, it was Evander who put the ball in the back of the net. So it's kind of been a one-man show. Kevin Danke's been hurt for a bit. He's expected to come back very soon, and that should help in the attack. But he's not getting much help in terms of goal-scoring production outside of just himself. So it's been kind of a one-man show in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net.
Now, obviously, just to go back to Lucho Acosta for just a moment here, obviously the way he left Cincinnati was not good. Every Cincinnati fan was very upset, and rightfully so. Look, you thought he brought you guys your first supporter shield. Things were looking great. Next thing you know, he wanted out for some silly reason, I guess because he wanted to go somewhere else. He went to Dallas, and obviously that didn't work over there in Dallas. But, with the way things ended with Lucho, were you just basically saying, hey, listen, we may have lost him, but we got someone better?
For sure, and someone younger as well, right? Who is he's fitting the system. So again, as I said, I think there was speculation of how well this is going to work. How long is it going to take for these players to get acclimated in a new system and the new team? But it's been pretty seamless for Evander, which is great for FC Cincinnati fans, because you're still top of the table. And fighting for supporters shield this season, and a lot of times when you lose as significant of a piece as he did in the former MVP in Lucho Acosta, it's difficult to regain or keep the form that you had when they were around. So that's hats off to kind of the front office and finding the right piece with the new in league trade system that was put in place this past offseason, and being able to bring in someone of the talent and quality of Evander, and someone that's younger as well. So you're getting probably a bit more years of prime performance out of him.
How shocked are you that the club went after Kai Kamara to bring him over to the club? And obviously, he's been more of a bench player than a starter, but he'll probably get a spot start here and there. But, look, he's a cagey veteran in this league. He's played so many games. He's won so many trophies in the Open Cup. How has he been with Cincinnati since being integrated with the club?
Yeah, he's been playing more, mainly because, you have the Kevin Denke injury for a bit now. So you need someone who can kind of be a physical presence at the top, leading the line and being able to hold up play, which is something that Kai Kamara does incredibly well. He hasn't scored for the team, which, I think is the first stat a lot of people look at in terms of strikers. But he's been so, I think, intelligent off the ball, and his ability to kind of space out, lead a press, just the veteran things that you would expect out of a player that has the tenure and the experience and the quality of Kai Kamara. I can't say I'm overly surprised. Kai Kamara was a expansion draft pick by FC Cincinnati back in 2019 and was traded immediately during the trade. So during that the pick after the pick was made. So he was a member of FC Cincinnati for a mere few minutes before the team even played a first MLS match. So it almost feels kind of full circle in their 10th anniversary season to have Kai Kamara now on the roster, and hopefully he can get at least one goal to kind of celebrate in front of the Bailey, because that would be, I'm sure he's quite the fan favorite just because the professionalism there and what he can bring on the pitch.
Right, absolutely. Roman Celentano has been that strong goalkeeper that the club has been. I mean, I'll admit they've had good goalkeepers in the past, obviously, when they're in USL and now in MLS. But Celentano, so far to me, has really been rock steady. What's it like to have him in goal?
Yeah, I think the goalkeeping crew, not even outside of just Celentano, the depth that this FC Cincinnati team has is one of the best in the league. But with Roman, it's been a really interesting thing to see him develop, because you picked him really early. I think it was a second overall pick in a super draft a couple years ago in 2022. He wasn't expected to start, and then starting goalkeeper, I think at that time, Alec Khan, gets hurt, and all of a sudden you're seeing him start an Open Cup match, and then he's starting in MLS matches, and he just hasn't looked back. He's just put himself in the starting spot and hasn't given it up. He's improved in a lot of categories. I think he's always been a good shot stopper, but his ability to kind of play with the ball at his feet and distribute much better, because that was a weakness in his game for sure starting off. And just kind of the poise and his positioning a lot of the time was something that I was really concerned with, and I think it's improved. I think there's still room for more improvement there, but with him, it's been something that's really fun to watch, because he's a kind of a local kid in terms of he went to IU for college, so he's just right up the road when he played his collegiate soccer in the Big Ten, and so for him to be thriving in MLS as one of the consistently good goalkeepers in the league is really impressive, and hopefully he gets some USMNT shouts here and there. I know he's been to a couple camps, hasn't made a debut, hasn't earned a cap yet, but I know he's still young, so he has more opportunity to kind of showcase that in the long term.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Obviously, like I've already said, they're only 2 points behind Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference. What makes you think they can overtake Philly? Because as you've seen it, we've all seen it. Philly's right now a juggernaut. They're just really locked on. They're just basically a hot knife going right through butter without an issue. But let's also not forget, I believe right now, Supporters Shield-wise, Philly is in first, actually. So they are also 2 points ahead of the surprise San Diego FC expansion side. They have 49 points as well. So it's not just one club you have to contend against. It's two clubs that the Supporters Shield is active and up for grabs for you guys in San Diego and Philly. What do you think Cincy has to do to overtake both teams?
They need to be a bit more clinical in front of goal. I think that's obviously something that with Denke coming back, you hope that gets resolved. But even in this past weekend's match, they had plenty of chances to put the match away early against Charlotte. They failed to do so, and then a red card comes, and all of a sudden you end up down a man and concede a goal, and you've lost 3 points at home. in a match that you really dominated for the first 70 minutes to not get any sort of, result there is I think yearly frustrating. Against Philadelphia, I think you go back to before the Leagues Cup began and their losses against Nashville and I think Columbus, 2 consecutive matches 1-0. You saw what they were able to do defensively in terms of shutting down like Ty Baribo and their the Philly midfield. I think Cincinnati have the personnel, especially you look at Matt Miazga, you look at Miles Robinson, they have the personnel to be able to match up against Philly's attackers. I guess the question is, are you going to be able to convert on the chances you have? Because Cincinnati haven't been a possession dominant team this season. So you're going to have to, capitalize on the chances when you get them against Philly. In terms of San Diego, they've been incredible, haven't they? And it's a bit tougher when they're in a opposing conference and you don't have the head-to-heads to kind of base it off of, because it's not like, oh, we'll face you and we'll have an opportunity to beat you and take 3 points and you don't get any points. That's not the case there. So compared to San Diego, Cincinnati, I think, have conceded the same number of goals as San Diego and yet have scored like 10 less goals. So the goal differential is pretty stark despite having the exact same record there. But Pat Noonan's been able to consistently win kind of 1-goal matches. So I don't know if that's I've been saying this for years now. I don't know if that's sustainable, and yet it's worked for the last 2.5 years, 3 years. So maybe it is. But yeah, I mean, you'd like to see this team put games away a bit earlier and go up 2-3 goals rather than trying to stick out a 1-0 result, a 2-1 result every single time.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind. I want to talk a little bit because you do your Asian football show online. Let's talk about Asia real quick and for World Cup qualifying. Obviously, 6 sides, I believe, are now in the final, are in the World Cup themselves. What did you make of the final round? Or should I say that I think it was the 3rd or 4th round, I think it was, that those teams qualified out of the last round. What do you think about those nations that qualified, and what are you expecting in the final round that's going to happen? And of course, the playoffs for the intercontinental playoff.
Yeah, so the teams that qualified through the 3rd round, we'll just quickly go through them: Iran, Uzbekistan, South Korea, Jordan, Japan, and Australia. Truly not a ton of surprises there in terms of what the top 2 were. Iran and Uzbekistan are very strong Asian teams, and I think they both played very well, all things considered. I know Iran are not too happy with their coaching situation right now and want a managerial change ahead of the World Cup. We'll see what happens there with Galinoe, but they're a very strong side in terms of Asian standards. Japan and Australia, I think Australia had a really tough start to the 3rd round, but they were able to bounce back and they put up a great performance late, and Japan just kind of cruised. Honestly, they just cruised through qualification. We're the first nation to qualify through qualification, I guess, for the 26th World Cup, in the world. And then South Korea, kind of a disappointing out of the 3 big kind of nations between Iran, Japan, and South Korea, were a little underwhelming, but they still were able to finish first in the group. So, that's all you really need. And Jordan looked pretty solid, I think, all things considered. They're very good defensively. So we'll see how the 4th round goes. I don't remember the draw off the top of my head, but
That's
I know
okay.
it's Saudi Arabia hosting one group, Qatar hosting another group, and it's going to be 3 teams in each group. And so the other teams are Indonesia, it's Iraq, it's Oman, and it's the UAE. So we'll see how that kind of fares. A lot of people are saying home field advantage for Qatar and Saudi Arabia will play a factor. We'll see how that ends up happening, but it should be good. I like the chances for each of these teams, and if you finish in 2nd place, you move on to play a head-to-head against the other 2nd place team to qualify for that intercontinental World Cup spot that you're talking about. So plenty of opportunities for these Asian nations to kind of make a mark. The underdog, definitely Indonesia, if you're wanting to cheer on an underdog. Incredible story, including MLS goalkeeper Martin Paes. Phenomenal story there, and they've been impressive. So we'll see how that goes, but it should be very, very entertaining.
It really should be. And I want to say this, it's also very interesting that, Indonesia started all the way in the opening round in the goal aggregate series of the opening round in Asia. Has there ever been a nation in AFC in World Cup qualifying that has ever started in the opening round and then gone to qualify for the World Cup? Or is this the first time it's ever happened, if it does happen?
Not in recent memory, certainly not. And you have to understand, I mean, this is an expanded format. So in previous formats, you were having less teams qualify. So it was always kind of the same teams the last couple of times. It's been the same teams qualifying between Australia, Japan, Iran, and South Korea. It's been kind of the four in Saudi Arabia. I guess it's the fifth. And so now you have, instead of, 5 teams, 4 teams out of Asia, maybe even, 6, depending on how everything goes, it's now 8 teams, potentially 9. So you have more opportunities. And for Indonesia, that's a fantastic news because they weren't going to finish top 2 in the group with Japan, Saudi Arabia, and Australia. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure if they'll be the first, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. It's usually been teams that enter, late in the second round of qualification rather than from the first primary round. So, yeah, it's been a very impressive story what they've been able to do for sure.
No, absolutely. And once again, look, if you want to follow everything that Kenta does, follow him on social media, listen to his AFC podcast show. And don't forget, he's also writing over with me at Bad Dog Sports, anything and everything Asian Football Confederation that goes across that area of the world. Kenta, as always, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me tonight. Have a good night and good luck with the rest of the season, okay?
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Once again, Kenta Hagiwara of Area Sportsnet covering FC Cincinnati. So once again, just one of those things that, Cincinnati's doing an amazing job. And if you want, like I said, if you want to follow Asian football news, there you go. There you go. And it's just absolutely great. Great stuff from him. And as we continue on here on the 40 Cents Fire American Soccer Show, we're going to talk about the New York Red Bulls. And before we talk about the match that happened Sunday night, I have to address the thing that, everyone's been talking about and everyone was shocked to see. And even I was shocked and my colleagues were shocked, maybe except for one, but I won't get into that because that guy, wants to not look at the truth, but that's as far as it goes. When the New York Red Bulls went on the road to Chicago to take on the Fire, and of course they lost 1-0. Before coming back to Sports Illustrated Stadium, there was a concert. That concert that no one knew was coming. It was a surprise. No one knew that concert was scheduled to be at Sports Illustrated Stadium. They built the stage in the south end zone. They put a white tarp over the pitch. They had several rows, not several rows, but a lot of rows of folding chairs on top of that white canvas. And obviously, the sound engineers had their station. The video crew had their station. And after 3 days of that concert, the pristine, beautifully glitter of a pitch was absolutely in distress, and it fell apart and it became disgusting. For 5 League Cup matches, 2 for the Red Bulls, 2 for NYCFC, 1 for Club de Foot Montreal at Sports Illustrated Stadium, down the middle of the park, in the midfield center circle, and the worst of the worst was inside the 6-yard box and the penalty areas of Sports Illustrated Stadium. You can see brown spots. You can see the pitch chewed up at several locations. And the glitter and the shine and the pristine looking natural green grass had brown spots and was absolutely falling apart. And I wrote about this on baddogsports.com. It really hurts me to see that happen. And look, I understand that they're going to have new events there now, concerts over there now, because it's under Sports Illustrated's ticketing department. But, when I see a complete shambles, when I see something that doesn't look right, it bothers me. 3 days of a concert. 3 days. 3 days. That a concert had to come to Sports Illustrated Stadium and destroy the pitch. And then you see the ball bouncing around. You see attacks falling apart because of the pitch. Now, granted, they got to play on it, and I understand that. But if I'm the grounds crew of the New York Red Bulls, and I understand you can't get the whole stage off until everything is done. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to move the chairs off, would it? It wouldn't hurt to just roll up the white canvas and make sure that there's some light coming to that field. You could probably save some of the embarrassment. But you can't. You can't. And it just hurts. For a decade and a half of this stadium, originally known as Red Bull Arena, the most beautiful looking pitch and the most beautiful looking stadium ground in American soccer, was tarnished for these past 2 to 3 weeks. Absolutely tarnished because of that stupidity. And look, they're going to have another concert there. I know what's going to happen. There's going to be a concert this upcoming October. I believe it's a country western concert. I forget who it is. I know someone will help me remind me of that. But to see a pitch looking that beautiful and that lovely to be destroyed like that is wrong. Absolutely wrong. And that's who it is. Jason Aldean will be coming in October to Sports Illustrated Stadium. I believe it'll be during the international break. But once again, it's just upsetting. It's very upsetting. It's so upsetting. It's just, you just can't believe what you've watched. You can't believe what you've seen. And you can't believe something so beautiful is destroyed. Now, they will fix it. Obviously, the grounds crew are going to be working hard, and they're going to start working. I know they're starting to work on it now. I don't think they're going to completely fix it by this upcoming weekend's match against the Philadelphia Union for the Red Bulls. But to see all that, and in my latest article, look, I talk about those great moments when the stadium opened. Obviously, the first friendly was between the New York Red Bulls and Brazilian club Santos FC. That was Pele's club that he played for in Brazil. Then you had great moments like Juan Pablo Angel's long-distance free kick, where he just destroyed it. Even though it did hit the far post, the ricochet of the ball off that far post hit Pat Onstad off of his back and into the back of the net to give the Red Bulls the winning match to make it 2-1. And that put Red Bull Arena into a frenzy against the Houston Dynamo. And then the amount of goals Thierry Henry scored. No one can ever forget his Olympic goal from the far corner that nailed the inside of the near post and in to the back of the net against the Columbus Crew. We cannot forget Mike Grella in the first 6 seconds of the match, the first 6 seconds to open the match and score a goal against the Philadelphia Union on a Sunday afternoon. You cannot forget either. You cannot forget at the time was a substitute, Brandon Barklage, against DC United. They were down 1-0 to DC, the Red Bulls. And then all of a sudden, Brandon Barklage nails 2 beautiful goals to help get the victory. And they won that one 3-1 or 3-2, I believe it was. But Brandon Barklage had an amazing goal. Bradley Wright Phillips converting hat tricks. Bradley Wright Phillips scoring 2 goals in the first ever Hudson River Derby match at Red Bull Arena, Sports Illustrated Stadium, in a packed house. 2 supporter shields of the 3 won by the Red Bulls were won at Red Bull Arena, Sports Illustrated Stadium. The first one from head coached by Mike Petke. And then the third one, at the time, interim head coach Chris Armas, after taking over for Jesse Marsh, who won the second one in Chicago on decision day. All 3 supporter shields were won on decision day. The first and the third one won at home. We have seen amazing moments at that stadium if you're a Red Bull supporter. There have been international matches, whether it be the U.S. men's or women's national team for the Gold Cup, friendlies, a World Cup qualifier against Costa Rica for the U.S. men, international clubs and international teams using the stadium to travel and play a match. And I'll also give another fantastic moment here that I actually forgot to write in my article. Former professional footballer, American, Anthony Wallace, came to the Red Bulls on a trial, played for Red Bulls 2, and in a match against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in USL action before these 2 teams decide to break away, become part of MLS Next Pro. Anthony Wallace took a long distance rip and destroyed the net against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Got the match winner out of nowhere. And that was amazing. Even though there wasn't obviously a USL match and not a lot of people were there. But the point is, it was a fantastic moment for him and for Red Bulls too. And then he did it again, getting called up to the main team after his time at the 2 team for a good period of time, joined the first team on a full-time basis, and did it again against the New England Revolution because he came off the substitutes bench, and he's usually a backliner, a fullback. Anthony Wallace did it again to the Revolution, and that is where I gave him the nickname Pinch Hitter, because he came in at a pinch and he got the big goal. A baseball terminology for Anthony Wallace I'll never forget. And even when I saw him, I said, hey, Pinch Hitter, how are you? He was tremendous, great guy, great to talk to, and just a wonderful memory that I remember him creating, not just for himself, not just for the club, but for everyone that watched him play. So Anthony Wallace, if you're still out there, if you're watching this show, Pinch Hitter, that's for you. Now we're going to move on to recap the New York Red Bulls' victory over Real Salt Lake, the strangest officiated match you will ever see. But once again, issues still plaguing this Red Bulls side. In the opening half, completely horrible start. They did not look good to start the match. Diego Luna, once again, showing you why he is destined for the U.S. men's national team, showing you why he is destined for that roster spot in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Just continues to prove why he is a big name player and a big gamer as well. All Diego Luna did was take advantage of a poor backline and a poor defensive midfield along the far side, sprung the attack, led William Agutta down the far side. Then Agutta makes a beautiful cross, a low cross to Xavier Gozo. And yes, Gozo scored the goal, but unfortunately for AJ Marcucci, who was the starter in that match, yes, it went through his legs. But if you pay attention to the replay, he was there. He was in good position. He just, unfortunately, the deflection off of his right foot, the inside of his right foot it hit him on the side of the foot, and on the inside of the foot, I should say, and it beat him to the back of the net. If that doesn't happen, he probably just saves it. Maybe Xavier Gozo gets the rebound, but unfortunately for AJ Marcucci, failed to stop it, but he was also failed by his back line and his defensive midfielders on that one. And even though the Red Bulls were fighting back in the match and they were finally getting back into it, the first 10 to 15 minutes was absolutely horrible, and I just did not like what I saw. Get to the halftime whistle, Red Bulls down 1-0. Start of the second half, and they're continuing to get back into the match. They're on the front foot. They're attacking. They're doing well. And then all of a sudden, big goal to equalize the match. In the 52nd minute, Raheem Edwards with the ball, attacking down the far side. Lovely pass to Emil Forsberg. And when he gets inside the area, he crosses it in the middle, low cross to Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting, and he just redirects it inside the near post, the back post, makes it 1-1, and the Red Bulls are back on the board. They're back scoring, and the match is tied at 1. Nice battle for this one. There's been ups, there's been downs. Then, originally not called a penalty, but after play was stopped on the Red Bull side of the pitch, VAR calls in the referee. They review it, and yes, there was a foul on Choupo-Moting because he was fouled by the RSL defender, by Vera. And on the review, penalty, Red Bulls. There was gamesmanship from Rafael Kalab. I know I messed up his last name, and I apologize about that. A lot of mind games, and unfortunately for Choupo-Moting, he chose the Panenka, and he kicked it right at the keeper. So the penalty was a miss, right at the keeper, and that's why you see the X crossing on the ball during that penalty. And then we get to the part where craziness comes into play, and absolute craziness, and it's really, really unfortunate. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves here, folks, Diego Luna, unfortunately, the victim of this. Now, in the 82nd minute, Luna was booked for unsportsmanlike conduct, basically dissent. And then 3 minutes later, he is defending against Kyle Duncan down the near side. And yes, you do see Kyle Duncan taking his arm and wrapping it around the back of the neck of Diego Luna. And then Luna, it looked like he tackled Kyle Duncan down. But on the replay, and a very good replay, reverse angle, close up, Kyle Duncan, unfortunately, his stupidity, he did wrap his arm around the back of the neck of Luna. And as they went down, he had a close fist, Duncan, and he did punch Luna. Now, unfortunately for Diego Luna, that was not a straight red card. That was, as you can see, second yellow going into red. And unfortunately, through VAR, that's not reviewable. So unfortunately, Diego Luna was sent off on double yellow into red. But they did review, when the next stoppage, they reviewed Kyle Duncan's situation. And in the 90th minute, after the review, red card. And that was the correct call. I'm sorry to say it. Look, that's the truth. You want truth? I'm giving you the truth. Kyle Duncan caused this all on his own. Period. Kyle Duncan should not have done that. I understand you got to battle. I understand you got to tussle. But you cannot close your fist and punch Luna in the face area or in the chest, wherever it was. I don't care. You cannot do that. And so both Real Salt Lake and the New York Red Bulls went down to 10 men. You just cannot punch an opponent in the face. Okay? I understand both men are going for the ball. I understand Luna's defending. I understand Duncan is trying to get the ball, but you cannot do that. You cannot punch him in the back of the head and his neck area. You cannot. Period. Cannot. And then the silliness of the officiating in this match, because of the card situations, because of VAR reviewing, which I understand that apparently the penalty that was called for the Red Bulls inside the area of RSL, the second one for Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting, tussling with Justin Glad. Yes, he was grabbed. Yes, he was brought down. There might have been a hint of handball on either man. We don't know. It looked like it was Choupo-Moting. I think, I'm not quite sure if I saw it correctly on the replay, but if there was a hint of a handball, probably that should have wiped it out, but it didn't. They didn't see it that way, VAR. But also, the near side assistant raised his flag for offside. And as we look at the review, the replay, they were both even. Choupo-Moting was even with Glad. And then VAR says, nope, there's no offside. It's for making sure it's a penalty, and it was in the area. And yes, penalty Choupo-Moting. He didn't waste any time. He took the ball, smashed it to the upper near 90, 2-1 Red Bulls. In the 9th minute of extra time, or should I say 9th minute of second half stoppage time, because they were given 8. And because of the review, they had to add another 2 to 3 minutes to the second half stoppage time clock. And then after that, referee blows his whistle. The game is over. Red Bulls win 3 points. They come back. Red Bulls cannot continue to have slow starts. And there it is right there from my colleague of Bad Dog Sports. The review for offside, not the penalty, and that is why it shouldn't have been reviewed. And here's it. Yep, exactly. JJ's correct there. He also didn't add the proper extra time following the VAR review. So that's also another issue. So we have a referee that, let's be honest. And look, you're looking for honesty here. I'm giving you that honesty. JJ Pavlik, of course, is giving us honesty. It went from 8 minutes from the 98th minute on 99, 100. I think it went up to 101 minutes. It should have gone more than that. And to be fair, if this was a real big boy league, this match would be replayed. This match would be replayed at a different time. But I don't think MLS will have the match replayed. Obviously, Real Salt Lake will put in a protest to Pro and the league. I believe Diego Luna should have his red and second yellow rescinded. And I'm being honest here. I think Kyle Duncan's red card will stand. But Diego Luna's second yellow and the red should be rescinded by the disciplinary committee, and the caution points should be taken back, as well as the red card points, if there are any. And all I can say is that, look, the Red Bulls, you want to say they got lucky with the 3 points? Yeah. Should this match be replayed because of this referee's error? I have to be fair and honest. I think it does. But outside of that, it won't happen, because we all know what MLS will not do. This was a huge referee error. And it's just sad. It's just sad that we got to talk about this. What should be a great comeback victory is really mired in controversy, officiating controversy. And all I can say is, look, the Red Bulls got the 3 points. That's it. But, in reality, it's probably would be this match would be replayed in its entirety. But they can't do that, because once again, Salt Lake's going to have to fly back across the country to replay this match, and they don't want to do that. But all they can do is launch a protest. This referee should be suspended. At the same time, I believe Diego Luna's yellow card and red card should be rescinded. And that's being fair and being honest, from my opinion. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, this week will be Philly Union Week. The New York Red Bulls, midweek, replaying their U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal match down at Subaru Park, because it never got off correctly because of the thunderstorm, rainstorm, torrential downpour, thunder and lightning at Subaru Park last month. And so they're going to restart the game this Wednesday. And then on Saturday, the Union will come to Sports Illustrated Stadium at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time to take on the New York Red Bulls. And, yep, exactly, JJ. Bad weekend to be a referee. And once again, the match, I believe, starts at 7 o'clock or 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Let me just quickly double check that, because I want to make sure I give you guys the correct information. So let me just quickly take a look and see the time for that one. Once again, it is the Open Cup reviewing. Yes, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and we can watch that live on CBS Sports Network, which was destined for CBS Sports Network the first time. So 7 o'clock this Wednesday night on CBS Sports Network. We'll find out who the broadcasters will be. And once again, they'll be at Subaru Park in Chester, Pennsylvania, just south of Philadelphia. And then the Union come up to Sports Illustrated Stadium on the weekend. That starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on MLS Season Pass. I want to thank my guests tonight. I want to thank Sam Minton of the Blazing Musket and Kenta Hagiwara of Area Sportsnet, covering FC Cincinnati. That's right, JJ. And that's German for rainstorm, by the way, if you don't know German. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for watching me tonight. Please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and to this channel. Please subscribe, and you'll get all your information of American soccer news here on the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. But once again, I want to thank my guests tonight, Sam Minton of the Blazing Musket on the Revolution, and Kenta Hagiwara of Area Sportsnet on FC Cincinnati. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for watching me tonight. And as always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Have a good night. Take care. So long, and bye-bye for now. Have a good night, everybody.